Welcome to my lecture. My name is Lenka Naldoniova, and the topic of my lecture is philosophy of love in the context of Russian philosophy, and I will speak about Vladimir Salaviov and Pavel Florensky. So, my lecture is divided in 3 parts. At the first part, I introduce the concept of love. In the second part, I will speak about Vladimir Salaviov, which is one of the biggest Russian philosophers, and I will focus on love as eros. And the third part is focused on Pavel Florensky, who was also a very important Russian philosopher at the beginning of 20th century. And I will focus on love as a philia. So I began with this funny picture. What you can see? You can see two people. One say, I love you, and the second, I love me too. Why is so funny? Because you can see the contradiction. Contradiction of what? What is in contradiction? There is one concept of love, and we can see behind this word something different. We can see something high, like metaphysical love, and we can see something which is more connected to our psychology, on something what is connected to our egoism. So it sounds funny, but it's not easy to understand why it's so funny. So the other problem is that we are using only one concept from more meanings, and so we have to return back to ancient times, to Greek, where was used this word love in 4 meanings. So you can see that Greek used love as eros, which means desire, or I desire something what I miss. So this is love as a passionate, jealous, sensual. Philia is love as a friendship. So this is something like similarity of souls. Agape, which is this word was used the most in New Testament, in Bible, is rational, evaluating, impersonal, abstract. And storge, familial love, natural or instinctual affection, which is typical for mother and children or father. It's something like something biological, something what nothing can destroy, even if a child would want to kill his parents. This bond will always remain, which is very strong. And this distinction I took from Pavel Florensky, about whom I will speak later. So let me introduce at first topic of eros. Eros was deeply treated by Plato in Dialogue Symposium. And in Symposium, Plato separated eros uranian from eros pandemian. Plato, he focused on eros uranian. Eros pandemian is love for bodies, for its physical love. But Plato's philosophy, the goal of Plato's philosophy is the world of ideas. I will speak later about this. The other Platonist was Marzio Ficino. We know this term Platonic love. Everybody knows it, but not everybody knows where is who was the first who spoke about Platonic love. It was Ficino. Ficino was the philosopher who translated the whole Plato from Greek to Latin, and he founded Platonic Academy in Florence. Academy, it was not something like a university, but it was something like a union of friends in a villa, which was given by Cosimo de' Medici, who supported these Platonic philosophers. The other person who is connected to love as eros was Vladimir Salaviov, who is considered the biggest Russian philosopher of 19th century. And how we use today this topic of eros, this love as eros, for us in Western is connected to Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud, he used this eros as a sexual instinct much more. I return back to Plato. In Symposium, you can find the speech of Socrates, and he showed it how that there are different steps how to arrive to word of ideas, mainly to the idea of beauty, because the goal of eros is the idea of beauty. So there are different steps. The first steps, which are experience of man, of everybody man, is love of beautiful bodies. But not everybody experience the other steps, which are steps of philosophers, in Plato's opinion. The second step is love of beautiful souls. The third, love of beautiful acts and institution, laws. Beauty of knowledge, and the last one is a vision of beauty. So what is this beauty, this idea of beauty for Plato? This is something what is perfect, eternal, what exists, even if people don't exist, it exists, because we use this word idea as a thought, as something abstract, as something what is connected to our mind. But in case of Plato, the idea exists independently from man. This is important to understand. The topic of love as philia is connected to much more to Aristotle. Also Plato spoke about philia. But Aristotle was more systematic in explain what is the meaning of love as friendship. And he spoke about this in Nicomachean Ethics. And the other person, the other philosopher who I use in who is topic of my presentation is Pavel Florensky. For him, also philia was very important kind of love, and I will speak later about this. So, what is written in Nicomachean Ethics? That friendship is something which we cannot live without friends. We need another people around us for our happiness. But not every kind of friendship, because for Aristotle, there are three kinds of friendships. One is based of useful. This is typical for elderly men. It means everybody experiences this, that we need somebody, so we are in friend with somebody who is useful for something for us. The other friendship is based on pleasure, which is typical for young people. And these two kinds of friendship, we can have many friends like this. But there is the third friendship, which is perfect friendship for Aristotle. And this is based on goodness, on virtue. The perfect kind of friendship is that of good men who resemble one another virtue. So it means that two friends have been similar in virtue. They they need to share something very high. And we will see in relation to two Russian philosophers what they wanted to say, because it's connected. Their elaboration of love as eros and as friendship, as philia, connected to also to Plato, mainly to Plato, because they were also Platonist philosophers, but in a little bit another way. So now I move to Russia history of philosophy, to these two important philosophers, which are not so much known how they are important. They are known for philosophers who are interested in Russian philosophy, but in the West, not everybody knows who are these two philosophers. So the first, Vladimir Sergeyevich Salaviov, my pronunciation is, I use pronunciation how it's in Russian in case of Salaviov. But in case of Florensky, I will use Florensky because it's my habit. But in Russian, right pronunciation is Pavel Alexandrovich Florensky. Vladimir Salaviov is considered the most important philosopher of 19th century. He's he's famous for Russian philosophers, but not so much famous for Western philosophers. Who is more famous is Dostoevsky, or Dostoevsky, how is pronunciation in Russian. Dostoevsky became friend with Vladimir Salaviov, and the last book, the brothers Karamazov, there you can already see influence of Vladimir Salaviov. I will speak about this now. This is one of paintings of Vladimir Salaviov's. Semyon Frank is another very important Russian religious philosopher, and he wrote about Salaviov that Vladimir Salaviov must be recognized as one of the greatest thinkers and spiritual leaders of the 19th century, a philosopher, a perfectly original mystic, a man of the prophetic type, a political thinker, a poet, and literary critic. Vladimir Salaviov was born in Moscow, and I would like to introduce him through his work, which is very, very big. We can distinguish three parts of his philosophy. There is a so-called theosophical period, and his first book, The Crisis of Western Philosophy Against the Positivists, was master thesis. In relation to love, for us is the most important this theurgic period, where we can find this the most important Salaviov's book in relation to love, to erotic love, which is the meaning of love. But at first, it's important to understand what was his main topic, main goal of his philosophy. We can see in Salaviov's metaphysics three main concepts: unity of all, in Russian it's vsejedinstvo, God-manhood, bagačelavěčestvo, and Sophia. So, unity of all, vsejedinstvo, conceive the cosmos as the manifestation or other of the divine absolute in the process of its own becoming or self-realization. The unity of all, the return of perfect creation to the Creator, has to be achieved through God-manhood, humanity's divine potential. Human beings created in the image of God are called to actively work for this ideal, for the universal transformating in the unity of all. This work involves striving toward free unity among the three spheres of life: free theurgy in creativity, free theosophy in knowledge, and free theocracy in social practice. Cosmic redemption is Sophia, ideal humanity, the divine wisdom by which God created the world, the unity and divinity of creation. Our task is to perfect ourselves and transfigure the world according to their divine Sophic essence. So love is connected to this metaphysical idea of Salaviov's. We have to achieve unity. If I simplify, love is something for what unify all the humanity. But this different kind of loves, this unification is in different, we can say in different direction. And erotic love is something what unify men and women together. This is something like one of steps to the goal of unification of the whole. And this unification of the whole activity in the world, Salaviov divided in three spheres. So human activity is divided in these three spheres of creativity, knowledge, and social practice. It's very complicated, this topic, and it's not one lecture is not enough to explain it. So I will focus only on the topic of love, as I said. So this book, The Meaning of Love, there you can find this analysis of erotic love. And another Russian philosopher, religious philosopher, Berdyaev, in the Russian Idea, said about this book. Salaviov essays on the meaning of love is the most remarkable of all that he wrote. It is even the one and only original word which has been spoken on the subject of love as eros in the history of Christian thought. But there may be found in it a contradiction of the doctrine of Sophia. The doctrine of love is higher than the doctrine of Sophia. Salaviov was the first Christian thinker who really acknowledged a personal and not merely a family meaning of love between man and woman, because eros from Saint Augustine was focused only on procreation, but with Salaviov, eros began to be important for the relationship, for the personal relationship of man and woman. In the meaning of love, Salaviov distinguished path of erotic love. The lowest negative paths of hell and physical attraction, positive human experience of eros like marriage, procreation, or asceticism, and the supreme path of divine love as a sign of rebirth. This is another quotation from the book. The meaning and worth of love as a feeling is that it really forces us with all our being to acknowledge for another the same absolute significance that because of the power of egoism, we are conscious of only in our own selves. If I return back to the first picture, where you could see this woman and man, it was an example of somebody who recognized absolute significance in another person, and the man who said, "I love me too." It was in this picture you can see the power of egoism. It was, and what is the next step? Love is important not as one of our feelings, but as the transfer of all our interest in life from ourselves to another, as the shifting of the very center of our personal lives. This is a characteristic of every kind of love, but predominantly of sexual love. It is distinguished from other kinds of love by greater intensity, by more engrossing character, and by the possibility of more complete overall reciprocity. So you can see that this love is much more powerful than other kinds of love in Salaviov interpretation. The other problem is word sexual love. Salaviov in a note wrote that he didn't have any other any better word how to express polovaya ljubov for sexual love, and he wanted to say also that it doesn't mean physical love. The meaning of human love, speaking generally, is the justification and salvation of individuality through the sacrifice of egoism. Here you can see another two contradiction between individuality and egoism. Individuality is what we have to achieve. Egoism is something what we have to overpass. Individuality is different from egoism. The falsehood and evil of egoism by no means consist in the fact that the egoist values himself too highly, credits himself with absolute significance and infinite worth. It means that egoistic means that I think that my personality is the higher above all. Love as the actual abrogation of egoism, it means erotic love, is the real justification and salvation of individuality. Love is greater than rational consciousness, yet without the latter it could not act as an internal saving power, elevating and not abrogating individuality. Only thanks to a rational consciousness, what is the same, a consciousness of the truth, and truth will be another concept, very important concept. It was one of the highest ideas for Plato, and Pavel Florensky will speak also about the truth, and I will explain it later. So, can a human being discriminate his very self? It means his true individuality from his egoism, and therefore sacrifice this egoism and surrender himself to love. So we need love, and we need also rational consciousness to overpass our egoism. The object of true love is not simple, but twofold. We love in the first place the ideal being, ideal not in the abstract sense, but in the sense of belonging to another higher sphere of being, the being whom we ought to install in our ideal world. And in the second place, we love the natural human being who furnishes the living personal material for the realization of the former, and who is idealized by means of it, not in the sense of our subjective imagination, but in the sense of its actual objective transformation or regeneration. In this way, true love is both ascending and descending, or it is those two Aphrodites who Plato excellently distinguished but separately poorly. And I have to return back to Plato, because Plato influenced Salaviov with his word of the ideas, and for Salaviov, the most important books of Plato were Symposium and Phaedrus. But there is a big difference between Plato and Salaviov. In Plato's case, soul has to return to the world of ideas, because the body is something like prison for the soul. So the soul needs this knowledge of the world of ideas, and Plato wanted to separate two words: this world where we are living now, and another word which was the only real for Plato. The only real word for Plato was the word of ideas. This is different in Salaviov's case, because Salaviov, for him, it was important to achieve the idea of truth, of good, and of beauty. But at the same moment, these ideas have to be realized in this world. This is why Salaviov influenced strongly at the beginning of 20th century symbolist poets. And symbol, which is different from idea, symbols is something what connect the world of ideas with this world. And the power of art in Salaviov's view is transformation of this world. In fact, in one of his essay, Beauty in the World, there is one essay, I spoke about this before. As you can see, Beauty in Nature, in theocratic period. In this essay, he used the motto or quotation of Dostoevsky Idiot novel, famous novel, but in this novel also the one of topic is idea of beauty, and this sentence became very famous in Russia. The beauty will save the world, and he wanted to say, Salaviov described this idea of beauty in the world in connection to Dostoevsky or Dostoevsky. That beauty is something what is in realization in this world, in nature, and we can already see it. But man has to help nature in this evolution of beauty. But how is possible to help, to develop in beauty? It means that I need to achieve this idea of beauty. I need to see it. I need to know it. So this is very important to understand Salaviov through this Platonic philosophy. We need to achieve idea of beauty, idea of truth, to act in this world, to help this world, to help nature in transformation in beauty, which is not easy to understand because when we use the idea of beauty, we are using it in a relative way. But he was not a relativist. For him, beauty was something absolute. So I return back. To his idea of love, to Salaviov's idea of love. The other problem is why he's speaking about love in 19th century. Salaviov said that we developed strongly only our rational part, but we didn't develop this part of love, and we don't have also an organ so developed how is powerful love. And I found this quotation. How many geological and biological epochs passed away in unsuccessful attempts to create a brain qualified to become the organ for the embodiment of rational thought? Love is as yet for humans what reason was for the animal world. It exists in its beginning or as an earnest of what it will be, but not as yet in actual fact. In actual fact, we don't have so developed organ for love. This is interesting what he noted. Salaviov develops a kind of transcendent eros in response to the Platonic eros. In Salaviov's view, Platonic eros gives way to the resurrection of mortal nature in a new dimension in which man transforms himself into God-manhood as an expression of spiritual and corporeal union. God-manhood, which exemplifies in Christ, is something what is an example for us what we have to achieve. We have to achieve this connection between this divine part and human part, which is inside every man, but not in actual, which is not actual. It's in potential situation. And I already spoke about symbolists. This period, Silver Age, this is period at the beginning of 20th century, which is called Silver Age of Poetry. But this period, which finished in 1917 with the Bolshevik Revolution, is also called Golden Age of Philosophy. Because in this period, philosophy developed ideas of Vladimir Salaviov. And one of very important philosophers, or maybe it's better to say two philosophers who continue to speak about or developed the idea of Sophia. They are also called sophiologists. It was Sergey Bulgakov and Pavel Florensky. Somebody exchanged Sergey Bulgakov with Mikhail Bulgakov, who wrote Master and Margarita. It was another person. Vladimir Salaviov influenced this new stream of sociologists. And I want to speak about Pavel Florensky because he developed another kind of love. This is very famous painting of two philosophers of the beginning of 20th centuries, Pavel Florensky and Sergey Bulgakov. It was Pavel Florensky who was also called as the Russian Leonardo da Vinci. Why? Because he was scientist. He was also very useful for during Soviet period, but he finished in Gulag. He was killed because he never he continued to be a priest, and it was not well seen by Soviet Bolsheviks. So one of the most important book is The Pillar and Ground of the Truth, where one of the letters is focused on friendship. So this is the book. In The Pillar and the Ground of the Truth, you can see already this concept of truth in the title. Truth is intuition that is probable, it is discursive. In order to be discursive, intuition must be intuition which is not blind, not obtusely limited. It must be intuition that tends to infinity. It must be speaking, reasonable intuition as it were. In order to be intuitive, discursion must be not lose itself in boundless. It must be not only possible but also real, actual. Why I choose this quotation? I already spoke about truth in relation to Plato, and is the same in Florensky. And how we can achieve the truth, and also in Plato, we can achieve it through intuition. But Plato used another word. He used Greek word nous. Nous, intuition. Intuition is not instinct, is not something like sixth sense, but it's intuitive knowledge. It's something what permits us to see these ideas and also the idea of truth. And for Florensky, truth we can see through intuition, but we have also to take it in other words, and we have to prove it through reason. And he said that truth is immobile motion and moving immobility. It is the unity of opposites, coincidentia oppositorum. It means that in this idea of truth, which we try to explain, it's very difficult to understand, because when we speak, when we have a dialogue, we are using reason. In a Greek term, there was another term which was dianoia. So we cannot, it's very difficult to speak about something what we need to experience by ourselves through intuition. So he tried to take this truth through the intuition and to unify something what through the logic we cannot unify. Logic cannot unify two opposite things. Florensky pointed out that a religious community is connected through two kinds of bonds. Personal connection between people and an idea of the whole of the community. In ancient times, the personal bond was meditated by Eros, and the principle of mankind was Storge. These two loves created a metaphysical stability of existence of society. Christian society, on the other hand, was based on philia in the personal sphere, and society was connected by agape. So we can see how was different love in Florensky. So what was called Eros and Storge in Christian spiritualized love was transformed in philia and agape. Philia is spiritualized love and transformed Eros, and agape is spiritualized and transformed Storge. Agape brotherhood within Christian community is expressed through the communion of the same body and blood. Philia of friendship is created by sharing fraternal and sacramental acts. The spiritual activity in which and by which knowledge of the pillar and of the truth is given is love. This love, full of grace, manifested only in a purified consciousness. It can only be attained by long ascesis. In order to strive to attain love, it is necessary to receive an initial impulse and then to be sustained in one's further motion. And this impulse we can receive from a friend. Beyond the moment of eros in the Platonic sense of the word, philia revealed in the soul, the highest point of earth in the bridge to heaven. Friendship gives people self-knowledge. Friendship reveals where and how one must work on oneself. So it's something like a mirror. In a Florensky view, friendship is a mirror which shows us what we miss, what we need to elaborate inside us. According to Florensky, we can live in relation of friendship only if we have a friend. He used a big F because we can see behind this also symbol of Christ. But at the same time, we can have a friend only if we are living among friends. It seems that a friend can be understood symbolically as a Christ. Friendship can also be compared to consonants. Life is in a continuous series of dissonants, but through friendship they are resolved. In friendship, social life acquires its meaning and conciliation. Florensky had also a very good friend, but it's not new in history of philosophy, this importance of friendship to achieve something very high. I can remember or remind Dante and Guido Cavalcanti, or Ficino and Giovanni Cavalcanti. It was a special friendship which permit to achieve something very high, which we can see in Christ or in a truth, in idea of truth. But because in this, with this topic of idea of truth and Plato and Platonic word of ideas, we touch idealism, which was forbidden during period of communism in Russia. So this is why Florensky finished in Gulag and he was killed there in 1937. So to sum up or to compare Salaviov and Florensky, we can say Salaviov's erotic love is more connected to esoteric Christianity, which included Gnostic and Kabbalah teaching. Elevated sexual love leads humanity to the androgynous union, which reflects Sophia. Florensky focused his interest more on different aspects of love within a Christian community. I didn't say a lot because we don't have time to explain. For example, idea of Sophia was very important in Salaviov, but unfortunately the time is limited. So I can tell you where you can study deeply these topics, and so I suggest these books: History of Russian Philosophy, of Zenkovsky, Losky, or this History of Russian Philosophy edited by Hamburg and Randall Opol. Or also you can find History of Russian Philosophy of Kuvakin or Copplestone. They are also very good. And this is something what I suggest from my point of view, because Orlando Figes, Natasha's Dance is a very good book if you want to have a good introduction to history of Russian culture. It's also very good Berdyaev's The Russian Idea, but obviously Berdyaev was a Russian philosopher, so you can see or you can read an interpretation of a philosopher. So there is his view of Russian philosophy. And another very good book is of Cardinal Tomáš Pidlík, which I don't have in English, but it's possible to find in Czech and also in Italian, L'idea russa. It's about the history of Russian thought. So thank you for your attention, and if you need to go deeper to this topic, you can contact me, and we have many lectures on these topics. I have the whole course about Russian philosophy, also in English, so you are welcome, and thank you.